Mic check one, check, 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 check.
It's been a while. Have you checked the input?
Yes, I just did,
Nice.
buddy.
Well done. Welcome back.
Hello, everybody, or konnichiwa, or umgoya, or I think that was Cantonese. I forgot the hello in Mandarin. But welcome back to...
Welcome to Panda Express.
Welcome to... Yeah, of course.
Is that
That's what the food was like. It was totally like Panda Express. Well, episode 231. Halfway to 462. We haven't done a halfway in a while.
No, because you've been on the other side of the
planet.
Globe. Yeah.
The globe.
Well, welcome back, Graham. Good to have you back. I feel like you've been gone for like 3 or 4 weeks, and it's been less than that, but it feels longer.
When my plane landed yesterday, I felt like I'd been gone for a year.
Yeah, it really feels like...
Has everything changed? It was only 2.5 weeks, but...
Where did all these rocket cars come from?
They're speaking a different language.
Yeah.
They're wearing high pants like in Her.
Yeah.
Yes, I am back. Thank the last 2 episodes. I'm glad you guys, those were fun. We got some good feedback on the Dana Gould episode.
Yeah, it was a really good episode.
Which was great because he talked about a genre and an era of movies that you and I just aren't that well versed in. So it was really... It
was nice to get a different... Yeah.
It was cool. And then doing the Robin Williams, retrospective, I guess, with was what you call it, with Aaron was really cool and got some good feedback from that. So thank you guys. This week's guest was going to be Kira Soltanovich, but she's dumb. Here's how it goes booking comedians, guys. I sent an email a couple weeks ago, and I'm looking at the email that says, hey, Kira, do you want to do September 9th at 11 a.m. at Mancini's house? I'm in. Mm-hmm. So I put it in my calendar.
Sure, but then you also confirmed it, too, a couple weeks ago.
Well, that was when
Yeah.
That series, when she said... I said, great, you're in, like the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple days of those emails going back and forth around the August 19th and 20th. So clearly, I needed to say then, like last week, hey, don't forget to see a movie. We'll see you Tuesday at 11 or whatever.
Well, the thing about booking comedians is the day before they're supposed to appear somewhere, you actually have to go to their house, knock, and say, you're coming over tomorrow, right?
Oh, is that today?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck not.
The problem is, though... It's even when you do confirm a couple days in advance, sometimes they still don't show. They have something comes up.
You all have iPhones. Here's what happened. You know what? I was Jimmy Dore several weeks ago goes, "Do you want to be on my podcast Thursday, September 11th?" I said yes.
Yeah.
I put it in my book. Mm-hmm. So I get a message over the internet like a week ago. Goes, hey man, when are we supposed to? I go, I had written down September 11th.
Right.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Are you and I the only guys that like run a goddamn business where we write fucking shit down? Like,
it makes you wonder sometimes. It does. And now here's the thing about Kira, though. It's hard to stay mad at Kira.
She's adorable.
Yeah, she is adorable. So she'll be back 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, of course, she'll be back in 2 weeks. We're not going to ban her from the show. I'm calling her up and I'm like, she's like, oh, I'm shooting this thing at Paul Dooley's house. I'm like, I don't care about Paul Dooley.
Or his house.
Or his fucking house. And she's like, apologize, I'm so sorry. I said, that's fine. We are going to make fun of you on today's episode.
Yes.
She goes, all right, will you at least just tell everybody how skinny I look?
Yeah. She looks very skinny and she's adorable.
She just makes me laugh. She's such a jackass in the best sense. But yeah, Kira, you look great. She's skinny.
Yeah.
You can't tell she's had kids. She's just amazing. And she's dumb.
Yeah.
Kira is like, if I had a Russian half-sister, it would be Kira Soltanovich. She definitely could be one of my sisters.
I think she could, too.
She looks like me. She's loud and stupid.
And she's ageless.
And she's
like 60 years old.
She's 65, I think. She just turned 65.
It's amazing.
And she looks 23.
Yeah, she has a picture in her attic that ages for her. So she's really remarkable. She's a remarkable woman.
Where the fuck do you get that? Where do you get a picture that ages for her? Okay.
Dorian Gray reference? No?
Yeah, nice.
No? Hello? Yeah.
Hello, Dorian Gray.
So we're looking forward to having Kira Soltanovich here in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. Provided she doesn't...
Now remember, confirm with her.
Oh, Christ.
Every day for the next 2 weeks.
God, I'm going to just show up at her house with a packed lunch.
Yeah. Send a note home with her kid from school every day.
Tell Mommy she's got a podcast. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about. Hopefully we'll be able to fit it all into one episode. I saw a shit ton of movies.
Which surprises me. I thought, oh my God, the amount of traveling you're doing, the shows, there's no way you're going to get to any movie theaters. However, China has the most movie theaters per capita of anywhere in the world.
They have the most people of any country, by the way. Well, the cool thing was...
No relation. It's a coincidence.
No, not at all. Every town I was performing in, there was all these comics who wanted to show me around. And I was a guest on several podcasts, which I'll get into all of it. So I was able to see a bunch of movies, and I watched a bunch of films on the plane.
Oh, great. Well, we've got a lot to talk about, but we want to get in. We haven't done some recent movie reviews in a while, so we want to get into that now. We're going to be talking about a lot of movies, and then we'll talk about China.
We'll get into the whole trip. All right, so what do you want to talk? I'm sorry. I just flew in yesterday.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I'm surprised you're even awake.
And I slept for 10 hours last night, which was great.
Let's talk about Sin City, because this is a movie. Neil, there's a review on the site. He actually really liked it. I was looking forward to seeing it. I didn't get a chance to see it yet. What did you think of it?
I liked it. I liked the first one that came out, 9 years ago or whatever. It was... Let me put it this way. You go in... I know what I'm getting with this movie. I'm getting a cinematic version of the graphic novels.
Right.
And I love that. I think it's really cool and inventive. I like Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller. My only complaints I've ever had with Robert Rodriguez sometimes is he edits his own movies. I don't think he should. I think he should hire an actual editor. But because he's got Frank Miller's script, and
storyboards,
really. I mean, they're doing the thing. Anytime, so many times. Let me backtrack. In the 90s, when comic book movies kept coming out and kept failing, it was so frustrating because I wanted to just go, the fucking storyboards are right there in the goddamn comic. They have it's a shot sequence. And nobody would get that. Now we're in this era where the majority of the comic book movies are great.
The golden age of comic book movies.
It is the golden age of comic book movies. And this, when they did the first one, when these two guys got together and did the first one, they both got it. Because Robert Rodriguez is probably a fanboy, really.
Oh, of course,
and Frank Miller is, kind of crazy, but in the right way. And sometimes, I'm sure dealing with him is a cakewalk. But so it was. It's everything you expect. It's film noir. It's the way and the dialogue of those graphic novels. I love them.
How would you compare it to the first one?
It's as good as the first one.
It's as good as the first one.
I mean, I really like the first one. They're just, exactly what you're getting. It's stylized. It's film noir. It's bloody, but the blood's white. It's black and white blood, So, and I just dig it. There's so much, the dialogue, that she was a dame to kill for, all that.
How did Eva Green do?
She was great. Man, she was great.
She never phones it in. It doesn't matter what she's doing. That's so great about her.
This is the first movie where, I've always been like, okay, she's attractive. But this movie, man, the way they shot it and the way she played it, and, there's also a lot of nude scenes with her. You know, she's got an amazing body. And so she was really good in this. I think she
was great in 300, Rise of an Empire.
Yeah. She's one of these actresses who brings sort of an intensity to it that...
she doesn't treat it like a genre movie. She treats it like a drama. That's what I really like about her. She never phones it in. It doesn't matter how silly, ridiculous the character may actually be. She treats it very seriously, and I think that comes through in her performance.
And everyone in it, you know, hashtag JGL storyline is great. And, you know, Josh Brolin is good. Jessica Alba, Mickey, like everybody in it. It's everyone. It's all the gang is back. Powers Booth plays such a great villain, creep, fuck. You know, like he's Ray Liotta's got.
I think Clive Owen's the only one that didn't come back. Right?
Yeah, he's the only one that didn't come back. Mainly because I don't think his character was in this graphic novel. It's been a while since I read these, but I don't think that character is in this graphic novel. I don't
remember because I think it might be a little bit of a mishmash of a couple of them. Right. I don't think it's specifically just that one.
But it was, you know, if you like the first one, you'll like this one.
Oh, okay, cool.
And you know what? To be honest, now granted, it's been in the States for a while, but I think it had just been, I saw it in Hong Kong at this kind of very cool old theater. It's a movie where you gotta see this on the big screen.
Right.
Like, please, it's cinematic beauty.
Right.
And you got to see it on the big screen. I don't care how nice your home theater system is.
Right.
This, you got to go in a theater and shut your phone off and really get taken into that world. And it's, I really liked it. So.
Cool.
Check it out.
Well, I'm going to talk about Zero Theorem. This is the new Terry Gilliam film, and as usual with Terry Gilliam movies, the distribution gets fucked up. I don't know. You would think at some point he would have a staff member at Terry Gilliam Inc. saying, all right, this time, make sure my distribution doesn't get fucked up. But no, it didn't happen.
Do you think it's because his movies are just so out there that Hollywood just can't figure out what to do, and now that we're in this new era of multiple platform releasing, that they just like I don't know, VOD and then theaters?
I really don't know. That's a great question because his movies have always been basically outliers. But you know, he has a very rabid fan base that do want to see his films. But they do, even a smaller distributor, and this is with a smaller distributor, even they don't know what to do with it. But what I find fascinating is like, well, you bought it. You know, why would you buy it and then agree to distribute it and then fuck up your own distribution of the film that you paid for?
Let me ask you this question though, and I'm not defending the distributors. And I know you said you read online Terry Gilliam was like mad, because they're doing VOD and then it's going a minimum like.
Yeah, it's on VOD. I think it might still be on VOD right now, but then it's not going theatrical for like a couple months.
Here's the thing though. Let me ask you this question, just as a general thing. In this day and age, though, isn't it kind of anything can work? Like, don't you think that this could happen? And I don't have an example at the top of my head, and I'm sure there is one, where you go VOD, buzz is created, and then it goes theater, and you could do well in the theaters. Like, don't you think that's a realistic possibility now?
I think that's a noble experiment. I don't think that's what happened here. I think that's you bring up a good point. The truth is, no one really knows.
Sure.
You know, could a type of movie really benefit from that type of on-demand buzz and then get a theatrical release? Who knows? It's possible. That's not what happened here. You could tell.
Because here's why I bring this up is somebody, I forget which movie now. They released the soundtrack first and created a buzz going into the film. God, it's blanking my mind. I'm sorry. I got such jet laggy brain. But I was just talking about this while I was in China with someone about a movie. They released the soundtrack first, and everyone was like, "You're crazy. You do it second." But it was like, no, the soundtrack
generates a buzz for the film.
Generates a buzz for the film. So don't
was it a biopic or something?
Something like that.
Okay,
something like that.
Now, because I remember when Upstream Color came out, it was video on demand for one day, which is again an experiment, but a very failed one. It's like, really? Okay, well, if I don't see your movie on demand on Friday, I can't watch it on Saturday. That's ridiculous. You've made it now impossible for me to see your movie. So this movie, the distribution got fucked up. Now, let me talk about this movie for a minute. But first of all, I just want to say I'm a huge Terry Gilliam fan. It's probably influenced me as a filmmaker, and also I've loved his movies for years and years and years. I think Brazil was probably one of the best movies I've ever seen. And the fact that there's so many different versions of it and the stories behind Brazil and the release, it's absolutely fascinating. So I went into this. He's had a couple misfires, and he's had a couple of those Tim Burton-y type misfires where it's like, why is he even directing this? This makes no sense. So I went in this with a little like cautious optimism, and I will say Zero Theorem, it doesn't really quite hit the mark, but I will say it has so many of those Terry Gilliam moments that make you so uncomfortable because they're either commentary or prophetic, but also they're so laugh out loud funny that you can't help but be entertained in a way that only Terry Gilliam can entertain you. So it misses the mark, but it's probably one of the best movies he's made in a long time. And it's one of those movies that even like the premise is so out there. Christoph Waltz plays basically a computer programmer, and he gets hired by the company, the big shadowy corporation company, and to prove what the Zero Theorem is. And the Zero Theorem is that everything in the universe adds up to nothing. And the big metaphors of that are like everything we do, what does it matter, that none of this matters. It goes into the philosophy of that, which is really cool and really interesting. Christoph Waltz is a little off-putting. He's bald and naked in a fair amount of scenes. So, and he gets involved with a prostitute that's considerably younger than him. So that also makes it a little more uncomfortable. But also you have all these weird elements kind of put together with a Terry Gilliam film, but it's what you expect. The problem is, at the end of the day, most Terry Gilliam films you have to watch again just to kind of get everything that he's trying to put in and say out of them. The problem with this film is as it progresses, it gets a little more and more inaccessible, where you're not really sure what the point is or where it's going, or like, I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this. It kind of meanders off a little bit. Like you can't really latch on to that one thing like most Terry Gilliam films have, especially with Brazil. So you also have a protagonist, Christoph Waltz, who he's the thing about Christoph Waltz as an actor is he plays such a great villain, and he's so off-putting. Right. Everything from his look to his demeanor to his even his accent. When you put that package together, it's difficult to see him as like a put-upon everyman. Like, it's hard to watch that. Like, I think the biggest flaw with this film was the casting. Like, everything was a little off. Like, I wouldn't put that person in that role. I wouldn't put that person in this role. Right. And one of the things that was really off-putting is that you have so many different actors, all with different accents, all trying to talk to each other at the same time. And that was like really weird. I don't remember. It was like watching a scene like, when movies have scenes at the United Nations and everyone's talking in a different accent. It felt like that, but like a regular conversation. So you got Christoph Waltz's accent. You've got one of the Harry Potter actors talking this really thick British accent. Then you have the call girl, who is also like a European accent, and then you have Matt Damon and his son with American accents. So you put all these together, and it's difficult to kind of. Sometimes you adjust to one accent, and then you get thrown off by the other. It's really odd. It's weird, but I will say Matt Damon, as the owner of this corporation, is absolutely hysterical. He is so perfectly cast. He's the one that I think they really got right, and he is so great in this. And the problem again is that he's not in it enough. You see him a little bit. It's almost like a cameo. It's like he's in a couple of scenes, but you're like, oh my god, I want to see more of him. I want to see him interact with Christoph Waltz, and it really it doesn't all come together, but again, it's a really interesting film. It's beautifully shot. It's got some great ideas. It just doesn't necessarily come together as a whole. One of the other problems with this movie is it feels a little dated, which is a really interesting thing to say, that a movie that came out this year with a fair amount of special effects, it's almost like here's a vision of the future that I thought of 20 years ago.
Right.
Like, because a lot of this stuff is not only has come to pass, we've already seen the commentary on it. You know, the ads everywhere and everything. There's screens everywhere, and corporations are taking over everything. And, you know, we've kind of seen all that. So it's definitely worth if you're a Terry Gilliam fan, it's definitely worth a view. It's just keep your expectations metered because it's a good film. It's not a great film, but if you're a Terry Gilliam fan, you will enjoy it and see it not necessarily for the whole, but for those moments that only Terry Gilliam can give you. Those moments of they're absolutely hilarious, but they're layered with a sadness and also a social commentary and also a commentary on technology and society. So.
Cool. Well, I got to watch finally on the plane back from China was The Fault in Our Stars.
Now, did you read the book?
No. And I wish I had read the book. This is a great film.
It is.
This is like it's like everything that makes a good movie.
Wow.
Because the book I know is critically acclaimed and all that stuff.
Sure.
So adapting a book is as we talked about on the show, that's not an easy thing to do.
No.
And I think the two, this guy Scott Neustadter and Michael Weber are the two that adapted the Josh or John Green book. And it's directed by Josh Boone, who I'm looking him up on IMDb right now. Hasn't done a lot either. So he had done Stuck in Love, which was with Greg Kinnear and Jennifer Connelly, which was, I think was one of these movies that just did okay. It wasn't some breakout thing. So you've got this young director, he's in his 30s or whatever, but and these two young actors, Shailene Woodley.
Yes.
Who,
The Descendants.
The Descendants, she was great in The Descendants. And this new kid, Ansel Elgort.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, Divergent's her big thing now.
Yeah, Divergent was her big thing. He was in Divergent.
They were both in Divergent?
Yeah. Oh, no. Was she in Divergent?
She was.
Yeah, he was in Divergent. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He had a small part in
Divergent.
Wow, okay. It's mainly her movie because it's her story. Basically, if you don't know anything about this, it's two kids. She's like 17 and he's like 18 or 19, and they meet in a cancer support group.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it is that I'm blanking on the hashtag JGL Seth Rogen cancer movie that came out like a year or so ago. Oh, this is driving me crazy.
Oh.
Everyone's yelling this.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that where is it? I'm looking that up right now. I'm sorry.
That's all right, jet lag. Oh, I don't have a jet lag excuse. I can't remember it either.
Yeah. 50-50.
Yeah.
50-50.
I almost said half and half.
Well,
like the creamer.
Been better.
Yeah.
than jet laggy ramblings. So it reminded me of 50-50 in the sense that the thing I liked about 50-50 was it showed like how clumsy and messy dealing with this is going to be. I think oftentimes the cancer theme is dealt with in movies, and the person who's sick is just, they like every sunset and they were so brave until the end and all this stuff. And it's like, no, they're human. They're like, what the fuck? Like, this is bullshit. And the family doesn't know how to deal with it because the family's flipping out. And 50-50, really dealt with that in a cool sort of these two friends and how two friends would deal with it. Whereas The Fault is like, it's a teenage girl who now has to walk around with an air tube. With an air tank, she always has this like carry-on with tubes out of her nose and a tank, and what that means. And walking up the stairs, she's got to like stop for a second, and her mom, played by Laura Dern. Laura Dern's great in this, is, just trying so hard to like give her daughter everything her daughter wants, and she's in the, like, my daughter could die at any moment. Like, that's there. And the sense of humor that these teenage kids have, and this is all really solid writing, is, how they joke about it, and, one kid lost an eye to cancer and is probably going to lose another one. And then one kid, the guy she falls in love with has a prosthetic limb. He used to be a big athlete, and how it's handled, and it is so beautiful, and it's a love story between these two kids.
Mm-hmm.
And how they cope with this cancer, and how everyone around them is trying to cope with it. And it's just, I watched it. I couldn't sleep on the plane, so the whole plane was sleeping, thank God, because I was just crying. It is sad, but in a very beautiful way, and it's just, it came out in the States in June, so I don't know if it's still in a theater anywhere. But if you can,
were you in business class?
Yeah, I was in business class. I got upgraded. I can't afford.
So you put up the cry partition?
Yeah, I already don't have to look at those people in Coach, those animals in Coach. I don't know what they're doing back there. Probably drinking their own urine or whatever happens back there.
Sharing one meal.
Yeah, I don't know. Fighting, cannibalism. I think there might have been a coup on my flight, but I don't know. As long as it doesn't get in the way of the dessert cart, I frankly don't give a shit. So, so it was amazing. I couldn't sleep, so I wrote a review, which I know, shocker. I haven't written a review on the site in quite some time.
Me either.
I know. Sorry, guys. We try to write more. We're so busy, but
there's a lot of stuff we have planned to do more of.
Yes.
And once the movie gets to the editors in October, a fair amount of stuff will open up for us.
Time's going to open up for us.
Yeah, and the festival will be over.
I think time for like sleep and having a life.
Yeah,
I think those things will open up.
October will be, we're looking forward to October.
The Fault in Our Stars, I would definitely watch this movie. It's well written, it's well directed, and it's really well. And also it's like, check out these young actors that are really good. Willem Dafoe, shithead, who has two small scenes in it, is great. It's great. So check it out, and I'll post my review on it.
Oh, very cool. Well, I saw the movie Boyhood.
Oh,
and
I've heard many.
You know what? The thing about this movie is I don't want to oversell it because I want everyone to go see it and just enjoy it. But at the risk of overselling it, it's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah. It's an unbelievable experience. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Richard Linklater.
And I didn't look at my watch once.
What?
Like, it was, and that's the kind of thing, like, after 2 hours, I'm like, oh, where's this movie going? And it's truly an unbelievable movie-going experience because it does something that no other film has done in history. We've watched, over the span of 10 years, this narrative film has been shot. So we watch these kids grow up. Now, everyone's kind of saying that, it is the central character, the boy. You see him kind of grow from 8 years old to, college. But it's also his sister, and you see her grow up, and you see Patricia Arquette and even Ethan Hawke. You see them change. You see what happens to a family in the span of 10 years, but it's not a documentary. Like people talk about like the 7-Up documentaries, which are amazing, but this is narrative, and this is a story, and
so
this is put together.
He shot this narrative with this actor as it's growing up?
Over the span of 10 years, and these were kids. They were not professional actors. There were so many things that could have gone wrong with this movie. What if in 5 years the kids couldn't act? What if it's unbelievable, the chances he took and how it paid off. The other thing that could have happened is this movie could have come off as gimmicky.
Right.
It's like, okay, all right, well, here's another couple of years. Now we're going to see the kids are older. And Richard Linklater is such an amazing and careful filmmaker that it never feels contrived or gimmicky at all. It feels like everything flows so naturally and organically from the writing to the directing to actually seeing these children grow up in front of your eyes. It's unbelievable. It's like you're getting to watch an intimate portrait of a family grow up and what they have to deal with, from divorce to alcoholism to changing schools, from the small moments to the large. But in Richard Linklater's hands, everything is a small moment, but it feels much bigger. Mm-hmm. That's what's so amazing about his filmmaking. And you see this in all of his other movies, too. He takes the small and makes it large. And
well, that's like the before movies.
Yeah,
like,
it's exactly like that. Yeah,
I mean,
nobody.
It was funny. They always in the interviews, like when Before Midnight, the last one came out last year, they kept talking about they're doing a franchise. You know what I mean? It's the third trilogy in a franchise. Yeah. But what other filmmaker no one's even attempted this?
No. And like I said, the actors are all fantastic. The writing is amazing. And the thing that's really resonates with this film is whether you're younger, whether you're older, whether you have kids or not, it doesn't matter. You will find something that will grab onto you and that you're going to remember. Like, I'm going to remember this movie for the rest of my life. I mean, it's an amazing film because true art, it really reflects life. True art imitates life. We've heard that many times before. But truly amazing art imitates and reflects your life. And you could see yourself in this film as it's unfolding in front of you. Like, there are moments in that movie where you watch and go, "Oh, I remember that from my childhood," or "I remember, something like that. I remember when my brother or sister would fight," or something like that. Then, as the movie progresses, you're like, "Well, now that I'm a parent, I remember when my kids were like that, or I remembered being a parent and being in that position and feeling that way as a parent." Or as a kid, an adolescent, or as a kid going into college, I felt the way they're feeling too. You're going to relate to it on a very personal level. This film, like I said, I don't want to oversell it, but it is an amazing filmmaking experience, and the kind of the opposite of Sin City, where it's such an intimate, personal piece that you don't necessarily have to see it in the theater at all. In fact, it might be a better movie to see at home, where you're in your own space and you're actually, it's almost like you're being invited into the lives of this family. And again, this is the distribution model, so I'm thinking this is the perfect movie that would benefit from a VOD and a simultaneous theatrical release, because it's such an intimate, small, and personal movie, but on a weird. It's a very weird juxtaposition. It's a small, personal movie, but on a grand scale.
Yeah. I like that.
So it's it's like I said, it's something you've never seen before, and it's again, the pacing is deliberate. It washes over you. You get a really great portrait of this family. And here's the other thing I really love about Richard Linklater. He never, as a filmmaker, he never talks down to you as an audience member. Right. Like, it could have easily been, and I'm sure he got these notes and he probably said no. There's no blackouts. There's no transitions of like 5 years later or 1 year later. He trusts you to make that jump with him on your own. Every little part of the family's life ends. It's just a cut, and when you cut to the next scene, you know that time has passed because he's so. Deft at editing too, and the editors was great. The directing is great. So there's like little visual clues that say, here's the end of this part of the story. Here's the beginning of it, without the clunky voiceover or fade outs or cards.
And he trusts that you're going to be paying attention to the shot composition, showing the newspaper with the new date on it.
He expects you to meet him halfway, and you do, and you're willing to do it.
Right.
So it's an amazing experience. It's an amazing film, and I was almost spent at the end of it because I felt like I was like with this family for 10 years.
Oh
and
my God!
And watched watched them grow up and see what they went through.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's go into my whole China tour because there's a Hong Kong and a Chinese movie that I saw there, but I'll kind of walk you through the whole trip. First, the flights to Hong Kong were all going through Tokyo. So I stopped there and had a nice Earbuds Tokyo Drift reunion dinner.
Unbelievably jealous of that, by the way. I was thinking, is there a way I could just fly out to Tokyo for that leg, just for that dinner, and then come back? If we were cash flush as a company, I would have done that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I totally would have done that. I'm like, all right, Graham, have fun in Hong Kong. I'm here in Japan for a couple of days.
Just to have
hanging
dinner.
out with Sinai and Andy and Andrea. Yeah.
It was so cool because...
and I would have bought the Prince Park Hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't stay there. A little too pricey this time. We got so lucky.
We got a really good deal, yeah.
I was staying, oh my God. I was staying in this hotel and I was like, God, it was like $80, $90 a night.
Yeah.
Centrally located. I think it was in Shinagawa.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is awesome. It is one of those Japanese. It wasn't a pod.
Right.
It wasn't that small, but it was
a cube.
It was a cube, man. You walk in and it's, 15 feet by 5 feet.
Right.
So
it was more of a hallway.
It was a hallway.
Yeah.
It was a nice walk-in hallway closet, and with a little single bed and a little shower and a bathroom, and
all in the same room.
It was very small. No little real window,
right.
And I was like, well, that's cool. But that was a cool experience. And then we all had dinner at this very Japanese place, where you take your shoes off.
Oh, yeah, that was so good last time. Was it as good as the last time?
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, man.
It was great. We didn't follow it up with karaoke like we did last time. But it was really cool to see those guys. And
how long were you in Tokyo for?
I was in Tokyo just for about 3 days.
3 days. Okay.
So, and then Sinai took me to the this museum that had an Edo exhibit about the Edo period of Japan, which was man, if you guys are there, it's really cool. It has these models, and it's really, that's the end of the samurai era, basically. The last samurai movie kind of is about that era, sort of late 1800s, then before they start modernizing, and then they change the name of Edo to Tokyo.
Right.
So that was really cool. And then went to this, a friend of mine took me to this Japanese celebration, where they shoot fireworks off for like an hour down by this river, and everyone's wearing kimonos, and they got me one, so I was wearing, not the male version of the kimono or whatever, and that was really cool.
A momono,
yeah, a manono. Yeah, so I'm wearing a momono. And that was cool. Sunday went back to Kamakura, and they took me surfing. So I went surfing in Japan.
Wow.
And
did you see the Buddha again?
I didn't get a chance to see the Buddha, but went to another temple that I didn't get to see last time. So, and Kamakura, we were actually on the beach.
Oh, wow.
It was like surf shops, and had lunch overlooking the water. It was just like a Japanese surf town, man. It was a really cool experience. And then went to Hong Kong, the actual Hong Kong, which, man, Hong Kong is a fantastic city. Mm-hmm. And the entire time, I was like, "Oh, I've seen a Jackie Chan did a car chase on like Super Cop or whatever." I'm thinking about all that in the John Woo movies. Hong Kong is just fantastic. It's such a unique city in the sense that obviously it was an English colony for 150 years, so it has that influence in it. And then now it's the hub of, well, I'm sure it has been for a while, but it's like the hub of finance in Asia, like banking. And finance is all there, and it's a massive city. It's beautiful. It's right, Hong Kong Island, and then it's in this harbor. I was staying in Kowloon for part of it, and Michael Dorsher, who runs Comedy HK, they got a cool little scene going on there. There was a lot of really really good young comics. They don't have. There is one full-time comedy club. I didn't work it, because a different guy owns it, I think, called Takeout Comedy. But then
did you leave it?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely #left it. But we did. They set up in all these cool lounges at some nice hotels and stuff, and they got a really good open mic there that I performed at, and it was really cool. And there was a lot of a mix of expats and actual people from Hong Kong, people who live in Hong Kong. It was interesting having done the Rick Myers episode and having him kind of tell us about the politics of that and how, the Chinese government is kind of pressuring Hong Kong, and how people in Hong Kong are like, I'm not Chinese, I'm from Hong Kong. They say they're either a Hong Konger or a honky. This girl says to me, goes, I'm a honky. I was like, oh, that's great. And so that was a really cool experience. And I did a podcast there, and I forget the name of it. I don't know if they've posted it yet. If they post it, I will let them know. But these guys do a film podcast, and I saw Michael Dorsher is like, who put the whole tour together, and he runs Comedy HK. He was like, well, you should go see, this is the movie we'll talk about, this movie called Temporary Family. And it is...
Temporary Family.
Yeah. Here it is. Sammy Chung and Nick Chung. Sammy Chang, I think, I'm sorry, I'm probably not pronouncing her name correctly. She was an actress. She was in the movie Internal Affairs, and she, I think, has also been a singer and stuff like that. But it was this it was a Hong Kong romantic comedy, and it very much was a Hong Kong film because it was about the real estate market there, and this guy is a real estate salesman or whatever, and they're kind of looked down, but they're like, there's certain areas where they're like, come out to you and they hard sell you and try to get you to buy flats, because that's the whole thing in Hong Kong. You got to buy a flat.
You can't rent.
Well, you can, but the goal is to buy.
Right.
Like everyone's got to buy. Everyone's got to buy. So the movie was sort of about that, and there's this whole speculative market, and he's like, we'll buy this property. It's way too expensive. All these four people kind of intersect with each other. His stepson, his stepdaughter, and this young guy that he works with, and then this woman who's newly divorced. And it's this very expensive property at the top of the hill on Hong Kong.
Now, how were you able to understand it? Was it subtitled?
This was all subtitled.
Okay.
And so I was getting the jokes. Like, I was laughing along with the crowd. Some of the jokes I didn't get because they were like joke specific.
Cultural.
Well, they were like Hong Kong jokes.
Oh, got it.
It would be like a movie that was all about life in L.A.
Right.
And if you didn't live here, you might not get all the jokes.
Right.
So it had a lot of stuff like that in it. The first 20 minutes of the movie were really...
No one can drive around here when it rains in Hong Kong.
Right, exactly. It's that stuff. Like this one intersection where the traffic's really bad. So then they buy this like $5 million property, and they're going to flip it. And then right when they buy it, a law is passed, a law that actually was passed about how foreigners can't... There's a 50% fee, an additional fee if a foreigner buys a property, because what happens is you buy a property and then someone mainly from mainland China, a wealthy business guy from mainland China, comes and buys it, and you sell it and make a profit. So that they couldn't do that. So then they all had to live together in this house, and the hijinks ensue.
Right.
But it's funny. Rom-coms across the world are usually they're bad. Like this film had funny moments. But then it did that thing that we've talked about on this show. When a comedy tries to do, it didn't know what it wanted.
Right. It
puts this heavy storyline in there with the stepdaughter she's like a messenger. She doesn't have anywhere to go, and she gets fired, and she might have to start what they call a date. Well, anyway, being a prostitute, which is a reality there. And that just sort of is like, they throw that into the movie and then kind of like, just sort of half deal with it. And
now, is it the kind of thing where it's part of the culture where the prostitutes then because it's such an international city, it's like there's certain like the prostitutes that serves the businessmen that come in or whatever, or is it like? Well,
yeah, sure. There's high end ones or whatever,
right.
But this guy, your stepdaughter, is about to be And the one woman is like freaking out, and the other guy, it didn't
mesh.
It didn't mesh, and they didn't deal with it correctly. And it's like, and then they would do these wacky, they'd always have to clean up the apartment to get it ready to show for somebody. Oh my God, someone's coming right now. We got to clean up. They did that like 2 or 3 times. Are you guys this stupid?
Should be spotless.
That you wouldn't keep it clean? Like you're that messy? I mean, it was just kind of, so there's moments in it, and I kept saying, I wish I could have made this film because it was trying to also be a sort of a love letter to how unique and cool Hong Kong is. Mm-hmm. But they just kept trying to jam in all these other things, and they tried to show in some political thing about the banking and the real estate market, and then the politics with mainland China. They kept trying to like shoehorn in all these ideas. You're like, eh. But it was interesting to go. It was a nice theater in a mall, and it's all assigned seats at every theater there. And I like that. It's real comfortable. By the government, yeah. It was real comfortable and all that stuff. But I want to address the government thing because Hong Kong, you don't feel mainland China. You don't feel the communist government there at all. But then we did a show in Guangzhou, which is a 2-hour train ride north. Mm. Into mainland China. You got to get your passport stamped. It's a whole separate thing. And
so you get your passport stamped again, even though you're already in China. Well,
Hong Kong is different.
Hong Kong, sure.
Is different. In 2047, they gave 50 years. Mm-hmm. So it turned over in 1997, but the Chinese government said, we've got 50 years before Hong Kong is its own thing. Right now, it's sort of this separate but equal thing. It has its own currency. You know what I mean? It has its own government. But they've got 50 years before they're going to become China. So
at the end of 50 years, they become part of China.
They will just be a city in China.
But as of right now,
they're like a separate country that's a Chinese territory.
So it's a little complicated.
Yeah, it would be kind of like, well, it's like what we did with Hawaii. Mm-hmm. Hawaii was just a territory like Guam. It was like Guam or Puerto Rico, and then
Alaska.
And then we made it a state. Mm. So it's kind of like that, but it is very complicated. There was protests in Hong Kong against certain things that the Chinese government is doing. So then
I'm sure they don't want to be part of.
No, there's many they don't want to. But it's inevitable.
Right.
So we went to Guangzhou, and I was like, I didn't know what I was going to expect, because I was like, you know, my experience with a communist country is living in Germany. We lived in Munich, Germany as a child, and then we visited Berlin. Mm-hmm. And you had to drive through East Germany.
The checkpoints.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you got to West Berlin. But I remember even as a kid in West Berlin seeing the Berlin Wall with the guard towers.
Yeah.
And East Berlin was dark and gray, and there's soldiers and all this stuff. So, you know, China opened its doors in like 1979. So they've been, I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, am I going to feel this like communist?
Right.
No, you don't. You really don't. I mean, you see certain government buildings, and there's, you know, you're like, oh, that's, you know, that's a military you know, the big red star, and you kind of see that stuff. And they were very much like, Graham, when you're performing in mainland China, there's the 3 T's you can't talk about: Tiananmen Square, Tibet, and Taiwan.
Oh, interesting. Because
Taiwan is another, like, people in Taiwan are like, we're not part of China. And a lot of people in China are like, no, Taiwan is part of us. And Tiananmen Square, you know.
The student protest.
The student protest, June 4th, 1989. Like, you can't talk about that at all. Dorsher was telling me, I think the date, you know, it's 6/4/89 is this sort of like hashtag battle cry, or that's the number. Mm-hmm. And he told me one day recently the Chinese stock market ended, the number was 6/4/89, and the government wiped it out. Like, that number disappeared for that day. That day's trading didn't end in 64/89. You know.
Wow.
So, and you know, I was a guest on several podcasts I was a guest on 2 podcasts that were recorded in Shanghai, and they were both just like, don't mention that, or if you do, we got to edit that out.
Right.
Like, you can't be there and be like, hey man, give Tibet back to the Dalai Lama. Like, you can't say that. Mm-hmm. So, when we went and did the show in Guangzhou, it was all American expats who were fans, many of whom were fans of this podcast. It was this Irish pub, and it was really cool. It's funny because, like, Twitter and Facebook are blocked. But
all social media. But Google, you said, too.
Yeah, but everyone's got a VPN and circumvents it.
Right.
So they all just pay this monthly service to say, oh, I'm using internet, and it looks like they're getting internet from the U.S. Mm-hmm. So they all...
It's a workaround.
Yeah, everyone works around, and everyone was like, you know, in China, if you got the money, you can...
Get whatever you want.
You can get whatever you want. So that show in Guangzhou was really was really cool. And the response from people, it was kind of like doing shows for the military in the Middle East. They were just like, oh my God, I can't believe you came all this way to do a show. It was such a cool experience. And then, so I was in Hong Kong for about 5 or 6 nights. And one of those nights we went up to Guangzhou, and then I flew to Beijing. Beijing is very different. It's the capital. It's an older city.
You could see more of the government influence there, right?
Yeah, you see that. You see the government buildings. You see the soldiers and stuff like that. But it still felt like, it sort of just felt like, I visited the Forbidden Palace, which was amazing, and the Great Wall of China, which was, I posted photos. I'll post more. It was such a cool experience. And Nigel, too, who sets up the comedy there in Comedy Beijing, that's a newer scene, but they're getting more shows around. But that's almost felt like it was all American expats in Beijing. The comedians, like in Hong Kong and in Shanghai, you had some comics that were either from Hong Kong or Chinese comics in Shanghai.
There's no comics that live in Beijing.
Well, maybe I didn't meet them, but the majority of the comics that I met were all Americans.
Got it.
And majority of the people at the show were American. But Beijing is a really cool city, and Nigel took me around, and we rode our bikes everywhere because Beijing is still like very bike heavy,
right?
Like huge bike lanes. But then you're just riding your bike in China, and it's just a trip. There's just a guy in a truck going in reverse down the middle of the bike lane. No one's freaking out or yelling. Everything just flows.
Just don't get hit.
Just get out of the way, man. And the food in Beijing was just spectacular. Like that, I've heard this before, that like authentic Chinese food in America is,
you want to avoid.
It's like Chipotle. You know what I mean? It's like eating Chipotle compared to what actual food in China is like. The food in Beijing was amazing. These guys took me to these little local joints, really spicy, just amazing. These like crock pot things or whatever. Like it was, the food was so great.
Now, how would you compare like the food to like the food in like Tokyo?
Well, it's completely different.
But it's not like, we get Chinese food here in America, but it's nothing like what you
nothing
get there,
at all.
Right?
It's the food in Beijing specifically you're getting like, I think they call it Szechuan style food or whatever. It was much more spicy. The portion sizes I noticed in Tokyo were a lot smaller, and obviously Japan, because it's an island, it's more seafood heavy. Where you get more duck and beef and stuff like that on a lot of the dishes up there. So very easy for me to be a vegetarian. But it was, and bigger portions, man. The Chinese have these huge meals. Like there's 3 or 4 dishes, rice it's like noodles. It was crazy. So Beijing was a really cool experience, and they're trying to build their scene up a little more. That was cool. And then went to Shanghai. And Shanghai is this. It's where I actually watched Her on the plane ride back home too. Her is shot almost in a lot of it in Shanghai.
Oh, you eliminated your own boycott?
Yeah, I eliminated my own boycott and watched it. Some time had passed, and I could do it.
We'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah, we will. We'll talk about that next episode. It's still all of the things I thought it would be. But
I'm just surprised you saw it.
Shanghai is the density of Manhattan but as spread out as LA.
Right.
It's like 23 million people or more, but it feels more Western. Shanghai has this very unique history. There used to be what they call concessions, which are like districts. There was a French concession, an English, and a Danish. And back in the day, those were run by those countries.
Right.
So it has that, like, Shanghai. I did 3 shows at Kung Fu Comedy. And Shanghai was the only place that, and this is run by Andy Curtin, an Australian guy who's got a really cool club there. It's an actual comedy club that you can probably get close to 90-some people in when you pack it in. Tight, intimate room, but really a great space to perform. And they're a little more, that club is fairly established, and so there's a scene there, and that had, Chinese comics, a guy from Egypt, there's 2 female comics I met there, that are both Chinese that perform, Leia Lu, and then she contacted me about being on a podcast that Harry, his last name is Zhu, I don't know how that's pronounced, but I did their like movie podcast in Shanghai, and I did the Kung Fu comedy podcast with these two comics, and we talked movies and stuff, and that was really, really cool. And those episodes drop that I'm a guest on, I'll post it and stuff. That was really cool because Shanghai, every show was like a UN meeting. Like it had people from every country, which was a cool experience.
It's a melting pot.
Very much a melting pot. And Shanghai is the capital. It's the center of business in China. Mm-hmm. Hong Kong is finance and banking. Beijing is government. Shanghai is just business. Like any company that is doing business in China, any international company has probably got offices there and employees there.
Right.
Like one show, this woman that worked, this Italian woman, she was there with these 3 other Italian women. She worked for Ferrari, and she sells Ferraris to Chinese billionaires. So yeah, Shanghai was really cool. To
drive in the bike lanes.
Well, it didn't have as many bikes as Beijing. Like,
okay.
It was at least I was, and I went to this cool temple, and so there, I met a lot of really interesting comics and people, but Leia took me to this film called Brotherhood of Blades, which is a Chinese film. It's
Brotherhood of the Blade or Brotherhood
of Blades.
Of Blades.
And it.
What's that about?
Well, its Chinese title is Zhu Shun Dao. But it was sort of classic. It was a historical drama. It was all subtitled. I kind of understood the plot, but it was basically like these 3 like highly trained assassins were supposed to go capture some guy, and they were sort of set up, but they were these elite soldiers back. I don't know what dynasty it was. But it was, several hundred years ago that it took place. And there was a love triangle. It was really cool to watch. And she took me to this like film center, this kind of older theater, which I like old theaters, and this kind of more Chinese neighborhood that was less Western because Shanghai has a lot of very Western areas to it. And that was just that was really cool. And I met like a lot of really this comic Storm, this guy Joe. Like I'm sorry, I'm blanking on all your names. Sorry. This comic Alana Fu was very funny, and it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. And Brotherhood of the Blade, I don't know where you can see this, but I guess if you're in Shanghai,
if you know Rick Myers,
he can probably get you a copy of it. No, it was interesting, and it had some interesting, it had some cool fight scenes, and they did some wire work. And
what was the name of the rom-com you saw?
The rom-com was Temporary Family.
Temporary Family,
which was a Hong Kong romantic comedy.
I wonder if Rick could get that one.
I think you could probably buy that one. I think anyone living in Hong Kong could probably get a
family. Probably easier to find an Asylum.
Probably a black market copy. Yeah, these movies are. I was looking for Asylum, dude.
It's in Japan. SWAT versus Devil.
Sanai and I were looking for it. I was like, Sanai, if you see SWAT versus Devil, you have to get it. Because you go into these like Asian street markets, and they're selling you fake Rolexes,
and that's where it would definitely be.
That's
exactly where it would be.
I kept looking for it, dude. Asylum or SWAT v Devil. I was trying to find all of it.
She might have to order it on Amazon UK or Amazon JP before the festival.
Yeah. So that was the trip. It was fantastic, and I have to thank everybody, Andy Curtin, everyone at Kung Fu Comedy, Michael Dorsher, and everybody at Comedy HK, and all the comics I listed. And if there's any I forgot, let's see, Josh Molina,
Well, it sounds like you had a great trip.
I had a fantastic trip. And I think I was talking to a lot of these people, but, when we come back and screen, we're going to screen Earbuds in Australia, definitely Sydney, and we're going to screen it in Tokyo. I was like, if we're going to come up to Tokyo, we could definitely go to Shanghai or Hong Kong or maybe even Beijing too, but Shanghai and Hong Kong for sure. So everyone out there in China, I think we're going to be screening Earbuds in probably late spring, early summer of next year. So
sounds good.
And if we do that, then maybe we'll do a live podcast recording.
Oh, that would be fun.
Places. So it was really cool. So thank you, everybody. Arigato and Shei and Umgoya to everybody out there.
Well, sounds a great trip.
Yeah, it was cool.
Now never go out of the country again a few weeks before a festival when we're trying to deliver a film to post.
Yeah, I know. There was many hours where I was not sightseeing because I was in a hotel room.
Yeah, trying to get your bank to release funds because they saw you were in China and we couldn't get.
Oh fuck, man! Yeah, I had to pay for the live video stream and they canceled it because my bank was like, "What?
Why is he paying for it in China? This has to be
this
wrong."
Is a scam." And I had to call the bank and be like, "No." Oh god, that was insane.
So, well, let's see. We have a couple DVDs and Blu-rays coming out. Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
If you missed this theatrically, you have to see this movie. It's fantastic. It's really, really good. It's probably one of my favorite Marvel movies. Brick Mansions. This is the Paul Walker, one of the movies that came out after his death. It's Paul and his pal. Take down the mob with kung fu and without shirts.
Good.
So that's you want to check that out.
Take them down,
guys. And in case Rick is listening, no, it's not kung fu; it's martial arts.
Yeah,
and it's
don't
poor
worry,
martial
Rick.
arts. Yeah. Fed Up. This is a documentary about.
I forgot to say this.
Yes.
If you're in Hong Kong, you got to go to the Hong Kong Heritage Museum and see the Bruce Lee exhibit.
Oh, cool!
It is spectacular, and. Like Bruce Lee is Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is Bruce Lee, and that was so cool to see. And they also they also have a Studio Ghibli exhibit there. Cool.
Very
cool. It was very cool. But the Bruce Lee exhibit, there's an hour and 15-minute documentary that plays. That's part of the tour.
Oh, neat.
That was great. That alone is worth watching. It's interviews with his family.
Oh, cool.
And his friends, and I thought I knew a fair amount about that guy. I learned even more watching that documentary. So if you're in Hong Kong, please
check it out.
Check that out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, and Fed Up is the documentary about, it's another kind of food movie about how sugar is in everything and how it's, wonder why we have an obesity problem in this country.
Well, I'll tell you what. You travel through Asia, especially Japan, and you don't notice as many heavy people. And one of the things I noticed, by like day 5, I was like, wow. And I was tracking it in my hand. I go, I've had almost no sugar.
Yeah.
We put sugar in everything in this country.
Well, that's the problem. There's sugar and stuff. We don't want sugar. It's just in everything.
It's in everything. Because I'm sitting there, I'm even just looking at my healthy breakfast, granola. Try to find it that doesn't have sugar.
No, there's a little bit, even though.
In everything. You know what I mean? We put jam on. We have so much sugar, dairy, and bread.
Yes.
And over there, I wasn't.
Well, I noticed just from that short time in Japan, I had lost weight.
Oh, yeah.
And, granted, it was a combination of constantly lugging equipment into the rain, moving around
with
for 12
90%
hours.
humidity, there was that.
But, diet-wise, and it too, I wasn't like, I didn't have like cravings for sugar or anything. It was like, it was just a different diet, really.
Completely different diet. You're not having all this heavy dairy, and you're not having sugar there's sugar. And just in the whatever, 24 hours I've been back, I've already noticed how much sugar is in everything here.
Right.
And
so Fed Up will get you even angrier about it.
Yeah, get you more pissed off. Because this is the one where they're basically saying the sugar lobby is acting like tobacco did 25 years ago.
Pretty much.
Great.
Yeah. The next movie is God's Pocket. This is the Philip Seymour Hoffman movie.
I got to see this.
Set in Philadelphia. I had read the book. Like I had said before, I have not seen the movie yet, but now the book wasn't very good, so I'm curious to see what they did with the movie. The book was one of those books where it's just kind of a series of scenes and character portraits. There was no actual story, so I wonder what they did with the movie. Coming out this week, it's actually been a fairly slow couple weeks for movies coming out. Yeah.
We're in that dead zone
between
summer and Oscar.
We're in that dead zone that isn't February.
Yeah. The two dead zones.
No Good Deed. This is Idris Elba taking a paycheck
Yeah.
This movie. Now, Dolphin Tale 2, this is an interesting movie. I saw the first one, and it really is that formula of like a classic family movie. It really is animal in peril, animal gets saved.
Based on a true story.
Based on a true story. But the thing that is really interesting and different about these movies is that the actual dolphin is the star of the movie that actually had this story. Right. So you see the dolphin without a tail and them, figuring out how to, get it to survive. So this is the sequel. My daughter is already really excited to see this movie because it hits that sweet spot. The Skeleton Twins, this is an interesting indie movie. I don't know if it's going to be playing near you. Maybe it'll be on VOD. It's Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig, who play two siblings who have near-death experiences, but they're estranged siblings. So these near-death experiences create the kind of inciting incident for them to kind of reconcile their relationship and get back together. So
kind of a dramatic.
Yes, it's kind of a comedy drama ish. Yeah, it's a dramedy.
I'm very excited to see Kristen Wiig because I think she has some depth to her.
I think so
as
too.
An actress that we just haven't had a chance to see because her bread and butter has been comedy.
Yep, I think Bill Hader too. I think I'm curious to see this movie. And that's it. Wow, that was quite an episode. Wait, we didn't talk about the podcast festival.
Oh shit!
But that is coming up in like 2 weeks.
Jesus!
Wow, we are almost ready for it. We are still working on the live streaming. This is going to be really cool, guys. We just want to talk to you about this. Obviously, we'd love it if you came down to the festival.
Sure,
it's going to be great. In fact, if you come down this year, it's going to be a very special year. You're actually going to see Sinai and some of the people that are actually going to
Vanessa's coming.
The people that we talk about, the people that are going to be in the documentary, we're going to be there at the festival this year, and we're going to be doing a lot of filming. Basically, we're wrapping up the film at the podcast festival. So our last week of shooting for Earbuds. So, but I want to talk to you guys about this. Is kind of really exciting, and the reason it's been so difficult to put together is because no one's ever done it before.
Yeah.
This live stream for the podcast festival, it's going to be really cheap. It's going to be like $25, and then we'll probably have a coupon to knock another $5 off that.
We'll have a CFN coupon code that'll knock it down to 20.
So it'll be like $20, and you can watch the entire festival. So what you'll do is you'll have a player, and you'll be able to watch it, but then you'll be able to switch channels, and you'll be able to switch in between any of the 4 rooms to watch whichever podcast you want. And if there's 2 that are happening at the same time, no problem. Your pass will allow you to look at all the archives for 3 weeks after the festival, so you can even catch the shows that you missed. In fact, some people, I know they said they're going to the festival, but they can't see everything. They're going to buy that afterwards to see the things that they missed.
Yeah, and all you guys that came out to see all my shows in Hong Kong and China, most probably 99% of you are not going to be in LA.
Chances are you're not going to make the festival.
But for $20 US, you can watch all these cool shows, and we're going to do like interviews because all the shows there's a 30-minute turnaround between each show. We're going to do some interview stuff with people between them. It's going to be. Last year Daily Motion paid to just stream, I think, 10 or 11 shows.
Yeah.
Which was cool. But we're going to give you a lot for your money. You're going to see...
You're going to see the whole festival.
You're going to see the whole festival, the panels, everything. And the only thing you can't see is the stand-up show just because comedians can't, they don't want to put their acts out there, which I can understand. So it's going to be so fun. There's 35 shows. There's going to be parties and stuff. It's
a lot of parties, a lot of food and drink.
This hotel is in a cool area where you can walk to everything.
Yep.
And I think it's our 3rd year of this festival. It keeps growing and keeps getting better. And I think I was just watching the video that we have on lapodfest.com to promote it, and I was like, I started to get like, I'm excited this weekend, in 2 weeks of just that weekend of just all these friends and almost all the fun it's going to be. And I think we're going to do, here's the other thing, you get the live video stream. Our last live show we did in May, the summer movie preview with Will Anderson and Doug Benson, we tried something new. We played trailers and talked about upcoming movies and made fun of some and showed some cool ones. We're going to do that for the festival. And so if you guys get the video stream, we're going to show some trailers of some upcoming movies.
Who are our guests for the festival?
Well, right now, it's Joey Mack, kid.
He's coming back, huh?
Yes, he is. Please don't go, girl. So Joey Mack's going to be there, and we'll get one more.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it'll be a fun show.
So I want to mention that also because I got a couple emails and I keep forgetting to mention this is the summer movie preview that Graham was just talking about. It is finally up on iTunes, but then there was a glitch where it was like $9.99. Yeah. It's corrected now. It's $1.99, and it's a really fun episode. And we play the Leonard Maltin game, and hearing Will Anderson talk about the movies is absolutely hysterical.
Well, the thing that would be interesting to listen to it now is see if we were right.
Yeah, exactly. You could kind of check out and see where our heads were at when these movies were about to come out.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to mention, too, is we do have an app for comedy film nerds. It's $1.99. You can get it for iOS. That's all the Apple devices. But also you can get it for Android. But people are emailing saying, well, you say we can get it for Android, but I can never find it. It's only in one place for Android. It's at the Amazon store. So that's where you have to go to get the Android app. And then the one great thing about the app, too, is you get the bonus content. We record a little bit of bonus content every episode.
And a PDF.
And a PDF of the show. And also you get the back catalog. You can get all of them.
Cool.
So that's for the app. All right. I think that's everything.
That's our episode, you guys.
I'm exhausted. I feel like I just went to China for 2.5 weeks.
I'm so tired. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody on this. My first ever Asian tour was so cool. All the comedians who showed me around and everything, man. Like eating dumplings on the Great Wall of China and seeing movies. And
do they have a stand on the Great Wall of China?
No, we brought them. Nigel brought them up. It was cool. And there was a woman selling like Snickers and
oh, that's great.
It was crazy. Yes. Thank you guys so much. I will be back. We will be back with earbuds in the spring or summer to Asia. Thank you to Kira Soltanovich for not showing up this week.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
We'll see her in 2 weeks. And that's our show. My name is Graham Elwood.
And I'm Chris Mancini. And as always, remember,
Han shot first.
Dumplings.
They were really good.